In this demo, I will show you the GitHub integration in Jenkins. First, we need to make sure that we have the plugin installed. So I'm going to go to the Manage Plugins. And you should see the GitHub branch source plugin installed. So here it is in my installed tab. If you don't see this here, then you have to install it yourself in the available tab. Then when you do new item, I'm going to do my GitHub repo as a name. Then you can select a GitHub organization. So scans a GitHub organization or user account for all repositories matching some defined markers. I press OK. And then I'm going to need the credentials. I need to add the credentials so that this project in Jenkins can scan my GitHub repository. So I'm going to add credentials. I'm going to choose for username and password. And then I'm just going to go to my settings, personal access tokens, the last one here. Generate a new token. We need the repo access. And we need it for Jenkins. Generate token. So this is my token. This is basically the password. The login is going to be my username. I'm going to add this. It's going to be this one. And if you don't get an error, then it actually worked. So it's going to scan my GitHub repository every day. You can change this if you want. It will scan it now, so for me, I'm good. I'm going to save this. And I forgot something. I actually needed to change this into my login. So the owner, which is me, specify the name of the GitHub organization or GitHub user account. It is automatically filled out, but for me, it needs to be your name if it doesn't match with the name right here. So I'm going to save this. This looks a lot better. So it's scanning all my repositories. I don't have any Jenkins files in any of my repositories, but I have one in a repository that I just created. So let's have a look at that repository. It's a repository that I forked from Spring Guide's GS Gradle. So it's not a Node project anymore, it's a Java project. And Node uses NPM. Java can use Maven and or Gradle. And Gradle is the newest one. That's why I looked for an example with Gradle. So if you are looking to build yourself a Java project, then this could actually be a good project to get started with. It's a tutorial, and in the folder complete, we actually already have a complete example. So I'm going to use this folder complete. And it's a very simple project. If we have a look in the source folder, then we have main Java hello, which is a package, and test Java hello, which are all the tests. So let's have a look here. We have two files. We have a greeter. It's a package hello. It's a public class greeter. If you don't know Java, this one is just going to return hello. And this greeter is then used in the hello world. So this is what gets executed when you run the project. These lines will then be executed. So it's going to print out the current local time is current time. And it's going to use a dependency for that to do that. So we have already some insight in the dependencies. And then it's going to say, I want a new greeter object. And then it's going to invoke this say hello, which will output then hello world. So you will see two lines, the time, which uses the dependencies, and hello world. This will get tested using this hello world tests.java. So this will test whether it contains a string the current local time is and hello world. If these things work, then the tests will be successful. So we have a package, we have tests, and this all comes together in the build.gradle file. So in the build.gradle file, you are going to define, for instance, what the main class is. So it's a package, which is hello, and then the main file, which is the hello world.java file. You're going to use dependencies. So we use the JUnit dependency and a JORATime dependency. We're also going to build a jar, which we are not going to use right now, maybe later on. In one of the next lectures, we'll be using that. And then we also have the Gradle wrapper, which we'll be using. So what do we need to build this project, this Gradle with Java project? We need Gradle and Java. So we need a JDK. I will show you how I did this with a Jenkins file. So we have a Jenkins file here, and I did it completely with Docker. So this should be pretty familiar to you now. I'm going to define a new Docker image, and I'm going to use the Gradle. I'm going to use the Gradle image. And this image, the image tag that I want to retrieve is JDK8. So I want Java 8 with Alpine, which is just a smaller image. So it's based on Alpine, which gives us smaller images. I'm going to make sure that I have the latest version. Then my prep stage is going to check out the version control. And then in the test, I'm going to start my container. And the parameters I'm going to pass is in my home Gradle.gradle on my container, I want to have from my Jenkins home also this folder. I will map from my Jenkins folder a folder on my container. And that is just to make sure that we don't have to download the dependencies every time we execute this build. So the dependencies will go into my Jenkins home folder in .gradle. And then every time we execute this, we don't have to recreate all these dependencies because every time you have to download them. I need to do something for this. I need to create this directory on my Jenkins machine. So I will do that now. So I'm logged into my Jenkins machine and I have my Jenkins home here with all files and directories. And what I'm going to do is I just want to create a Gradle directory. So I'm going to use make directory and I'm going to put the correct permissions for this directory. And in this directory, in this .gradle, the dependencies will be downloaded. And this directory will be shared over every build that I'm going to do, so that I don't have to download all the dependencies over and over and over again. So my Gradle inside, I'm sharing this directory, and I'm going to do cd complete, which is this folder in my repository, and I'm going to execute Gradle test, which is going to test everything. And then I'm going to run Gradle run, which is actually just going to run the whole application, and it should print 2 lines in Jenkins. It's not very typical that you execute a project in Jenkins itself, but here it's so small that we actually can just see in the output. So let's go back to my GitHub repo folder. So in Jenkins, now we have a GitHub repo folder, and it actually found the GS Gradle because that's the only project I have in my GitHub repo with a Jenkins file in. This GS Gradle can then be built. So we have then the master branch in this project, and it actually already run, but it ran before I created this directory. So if you get this error here, it means that the directory has not been created. I created it now, so I'm just going to do build now, and then it's going to be executed. So you see pull of the JDK8 Alpine image. And then it's going to run Gradle test. Downloading Gradle itself, setting the permission. So you see now it is being saved in the .gradle folder, which maps to my Jenkins Gradle folder. Build successful. So the test built the Java classes, executed the test. And we see right here that the next stage is being run. And that is the Gradle run. It's going to compile the Java. You see that it doesn't download the dependencies anymore because now it can use the dependencies that are being shared to this container. And it's going to run it, and it says the current local time is 1400 hours. And it says hello world, build successful. So this is how you build a Gradle project with a Jenkins file, with the GitHub integration. So it's a lot of information in this demo. I just didn't want to do a boring demo on, oh look, now I have a Jenkins file in my GitHub repo and now I click build now and then everything works. This one is a lot more interesting because it's not the Node example anymore. It's a Java example. So if you're looking into getting into DevOps, you will see that one project that you're working on can contain many different languages. So nowadays with microservices, one team can be working on a Node project, one team can be working on a Java project. So often when you're building all the components of one application, it can have a Node part and use NPM, and it can have a Java part with Gradle. And you just have to get familiar with all of those tools. It's a lot of tools, but with the Jenkins file, it makes it a lot easier. You will have a Jenkins file that you use for Node applications. You will have a Jenkins file that you use for Java applications with Gradle. And using this GitHub integration, it gets really easy because you can just have the Jenkins files. You can have multiple projects in your repositories, and the GitHub plugin will just find new projects that have been added, new repositories that have been added, and everything can nicely be built. Your developers will get a lot of power to do everything themselves using the Jenkins files. You can just provide them with templates. And ideally, if a developer wants to create a new microservice, he doesn't need any steps from the SysOps or DevOps team. That's why these plugins are very interesting. In the next demo, I will show you exactly the same thing, a little bit shorter, but just for Bitbucket.